Hey, everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is a podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. I have a wonderful guest today who will talk about, as leaders, how important it is to look yourself in the mirror every day and have a conversation with yourself. That's right, Tobi Ojekunle is the host of Mirror Talk, the podcast where he talks about soulful conversations and having those conversations, those honest conversations with yourself. Counting your blessings, talking about all the great things that you do, but also having those conversations when things don't go so well. Finding your purpose. Boy, oh boy, wait till you hear what he talks about and the advice that he gives for leaders. You don't want to miss this. Let's get at it. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. And I am just so excited to have this guest with me today. There's so much I want to get into with him. As I looked at his background and as I listened to his podcast, leaders out there, the stuff he's going to talk about for these next half hour or so is perfect for you because I know it. I live that world. So I want to introduce Tobi Ojekunle, and he is the host of the Mirror Talk podcast. And Tobi, first of all, welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the warm invite. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm doing great. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, and it is so great to finally connect with you. Tobi, I want to jump right in, and I first want to ask you to describe the inspiration behind Mirror Talk and talk a little bit about your background and what led you to want to start this particular podcast and really talk a lot about the topics you talk about.
Yes. Thank you so much once again. My name is Tobi Ojekunle. I come originally from Nigeria, but I've been in Germany for about 10 years now. It will be 10 years in February 2023. And I came to Germany to study electrical engineering, and I've been here. I did my bachelor's, my master's, and now working as an engineer, basically. And, I just felt that emptiness, I was not complete in some ways, basically. And I felt like my life was just on autopilot. And there are a lot of things that they were just missing, basically. I was, successful in career, did well in my academics, but I was not developing myself properly, in other areas, basically. So I was just sitting down, reflecting one day, and then I had the idea of why not learn from other people? Why not gain experiences from those who have gone ahead of you? So that place of reflecting on my life and looking at what I'm lacking and looking at, what do I need to remove all of these lacks from my life led me to creating the podcast, Mirror Talk podcast. That sense of looking at myself in the mirror, examining myself in the mirror and telling myself, yes, you are doing great in this area. I give you a thumbs up, but in these other areas, you need to work on it. You need to adjust. You need to correct yourself a little bit. And what's the best way to do this? The best way to learn ever in life is to learn from other people's experiences. Look at those who have gone ahead of you in life and learn from their experience, basically. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That is fantastic. I love that. You mentioned a lot. You call it soulful conversations. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Soulful conversation means, having those deep conversations that go deep, that go straight into your heart, basically, like speaking right directly from your heart. That's also why the logo of our podcast is, the heart, basically, and it has like 3 lines that represents the body, spirit, and the soul, basically. And the conversation comes deep, not just from our brains or our head, but comes right from our hearts to right from our soul to your soul, basically. So we believe that having soulful conversations means having those conversations that plant seeds in your life, basically.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think you not only mean that with other people, but also when you're having that talk with yourself as well. Um, and so I want to really now get into a little bit more about my audience. I'm going to just make a little bit of a bet here that most of them don't have those talks every day, that they don't look themselves in the mirror and their world is very tough. They deal with a lot of customer issues, their team, their boss is above them, thus they're right there in the middle, right? What are some hints and tips that Well, let me first ask you, how did you now start to get yourself to look in the mirror every day and have those conversations with yourself? What made you form that habit, and what were some things that helped you to go ahead and stick with that habit of doing it?
Yes. So what made me from that habit was that sense of emptiness, basically.
Mm.
That's that search for something deeper than what I was saying, basically. Like, I was just living, okay, I'm going to do this, and having that to-do list and just walking through life, basically, and trying to just hit one goal and achieve the next milestone, basically. And one tends to just in a way lose the meaning of life, lose the sense, and forget to enjoy what life means. And so that's what led me to looking myself in the mirror and reflecting, embracing my flaws, embracing my shortcomings, and looking at myself and telling myself, yes, you are
Mm.
good.
Mhm.
How it helps basically is being grateful. One has to cultivate that bit of gratitude, basically.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. Be grateful for how far you've come in life. There are a lot of people who would love to be where you are and are struggling, thriving to do their best to be where you are, and you are there already. So being grateful that you are even alive, you have the breath in your lungs to breathe, you're able to go and work, be a manager wherever you are, be a leader in your little capacity, in your big capacity, helps one to actually look yourself in the mirror and say, yes, my name is Toby. I am this. I am love. I'm a creation of God, and I'm doing well. I know I can do better, but right now I am doing well.
Man, I love that. I love that. And I'm vowing that I'm gonna start, because I don't do that often. I pray every day. I'm a pastor, so I pray every day, but I don't look myself in the mirror like that. And there's something really powerful and surreal about that. Um, Toby, let me ask you this. So I'm just gonna use a hypothetical here. So I'm a restaurant manager who's just had a really, really rough day. I got beat up all day. I'm totally exhausted. And it seemed like nothing really positive happened that day, right? And my numbers are off.
Mm.
Just a really bad day. What does that talk the next morning in the mirror? What should it look like? What's your advice on what should that look like? And you said a lot of great things just now, but man, I'm really not feeling like it. I'm starting to get in this habit of doing it, but I just had an awful day. What drives you? Because I'm sure you've had those days too. What drives you to still get in that mirror and look at it? What advice would you give for someone like that?
Yes. I mean, the first advice I would give such person is be comfortable with your ugliness, be comfortable with your
Wow.
flaws, be comfortable with your shortcomings. So, I mean, it's not always easy to look in the mirror and see how badly you functioned the last day, or the previous days, or some minutes ago. Maybe you shouted at a customer, you shouted at a co-worker, for example.
Yeah.
But being able to embrace that monster, I would say, being able to embrace that other side of you, being able to face it basically in the mirror, is the first point, is the starting point, basically. And then reflecting on what happened, were there triggers, were there things that caused you to behave that way, is it could were there like some causes, going down deep into the root cause, basically. Being able to be transparent with yourself, like you're having that conversation with yourself. You're not judging yourself. You're not judging yourself at all. You're just being plain and transparent and truthful, honest with yourself. And then that way you'll be able to get deep into the root and you'll be able to, like, yeah, I'm not judging myself. Okay, these are the things that I did wrongly. These are the triggers. These are the things that caused or made me to behave that way. Then, okay, how can I avoid them next time? How can I do better next time? And that's courage to do better next time keeps you moving and makes you happy that, yes,
Wow.
today's the last day I will behave as badly as that. Tomorrow will be better, and tomorrow is always better than today.
Yeah. Toby, that's fascinating, amazing advice. Wow. How did you know? What were a couple of tip-offs that when you first started, how did you know that, hey, this is starting to work for me? What were a couple of things that happened in your life that that caused you to say, hey, okay, this is starting to work for me?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed it in feedbacks basically from people. Like people were like, oh, you didn't get angry, you didn't flare up. Like I was like, no, I did not. Or sometimes, even personally, once you start having conversation with yourself and looking at yourself in the mirror, you start noticing it directly yourself. Like, oh, that could have made me angry, but it did not make me angry. Wow, that's amazing. Or you notice a trigger coming your way, and on 100%, since you've already had that conversation with yourself, you notice, yes, I see you coming. Okay, I'm just going to
Wow,
I'm just going to avoid it for you. I'm just going to leave the road for you, basically. Yeah. Or just smile and say, oh yeah, this would make me angry. What can I do to, yeah,
I love
push it
that.
off?
I
Yeah.
love that. So there was some clear things that you saw that other people saw in you that caused you to say, you know what, this is working. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Um, you talk a lot about finding your purpose as a big part of your mirror talk. Talk a
Mm.
little bit about that. I think I was speaking to some managers recently, and I kept saying, "So, what's your purpose for coming to work every day?" And they actually got a little bit bent out of shape a little bit, right? What do you keep asking me about my purpose? I want to go to work. I want to just make money. I want to be successful or whatever. But you go a lot deeper than that. Talk a little bit about where we should start when it comes to finding our purpose.
Yes, I believe that our purpose in life is it's God's calling over our lives,
Mm,
and also it has to do with what do you enjoy doing, what keeps you happy, what can you keep on doing even without getting paid for it, what can you do when you are tired, what do you wake up every morning and you think about, like what gives you joy, what brings you happiness, peace of mind. That could be your purpose in life. What can you do, even when the whole world turns upside down, like what would you choose over and over and over and again? That's the purpose that's our purpose in life. I as a Christian also, I believe, yeah, God gives us purpose. Like we are all on this earth for a reason,
mhm.
and it takes us, like as Christians, it takes you that extra work to ask God, basically, like, God, please, why did you create me? Why did you form me in the belly of my mother, basically? Yeah, and
Yes.
not just that, yeah, also, yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, that is you just gave the foundation right there, without a doubt, and you also gave some really practical things, to do there. Let me ask you this, Toby. What about those days where you just don't like what you see? You look in the mirror and you just don't like. How do you get past that?
Yeah. I mean, those days when I don't like what I see in the mirror, I just allow those feelings to flow. I allow that emotion to flow. I stay in that feeling, in that emotion. If I have to cry, then I cry. If I have to do whatever I do it, I feel that emotion. I don't I mean, in the past I do maybe suppress and want to always be happy and jovial and all the time. Just being a radiant of light. But once I don't like what I'm seeing in the mirror now, I just stay in that moment and feel it, learn from it. Because if I don't stay in the moment and allow the feelings to flow and learn from what I'm feeling at that moment, it could keep on repeating itself over and over and again, and that does not help me in any way.
Mm, I love that. That's just amazing advice. Let me ask you this. I see a lot of leaders, the second that they have a bad or off month or off week, or even sometimes even an off day, a little bit of self-confidence goes away. And that might lead to a lack also of self-esteem. So if I'm lacking confidence, lacking self-esteem, what are some hints and tips that will cause me to run to that mirror every morning?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks so much for that wonderful question. I mean, I also sometimes um, down moments, it's actually, it affects all of us basically. But I've got to learn that a bad day does not mean that my whole year is going to be bad, or a bad moment does not mean that or a bad hour does not mean that the whole day will be bad, basically. So if one is having, we should I see life. I One tip is to see life as something that happens in phases and stages. So maybe you're having a bad moment right now. When I run back to the mirror, I'll say, okay, I think I'm having a bad phase right now at this moment. What am I supposed to learn from it? And that keeps me encouraged or motivated basically to go back. Like, okay, what is the lesson in this season of my life? What am I supposed to gain out of this? Is there this, because I believe there's a reason for everything. We are here for a reason. There's a reason why we go through the things that we go through. There's a reason why things happen to us in some ways. And when you look at it in the other way, you see that you should always be the victor of your story. You should always be the writer of your story. And when you are going through a circumstance, you always look at it as, okay, how can I use this to write the next chapter of my life? And that keeps me going back to the mirror, like, yeah, okay, what is the next note I'm supposed to take from this so I can write in a new sentence in a new chapter of my life.
Yeah. Wow. I totally get now what you mean by a soulful conversation, man, because you have definitely hit my soul today, no doubt. And just a couple of other quick things. This has been amazing, by the way. I, and so there are so many things that are happening in the workplace here, and I'm a little bit familiar of the workplace in Germany, and I know you're very familiar of the workplace here in the US. It, those things can just pile on top of leaders, right? Where um, it just becomes a little bit too much. It's quite a burden to let go of. Would you say having mirror talks helps you release those burdens as well? And then I'll ask you a second question after. I think that's the one I wanted to get to. Is that a release of burden? Should that be a purposeful thing that you actually just say to yourself? If you just come to, you just come to that mirror and you're just carrying the weight of what you feel like is the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Yes, I believe it should be. Yeah, I believe, having that mirror talk should be like a safe space for you also. If you want to scream, you could scream at the mirror, scream at yourself and tell yourself, Kenny or Toby, what
Yeah.
did you just do? What did you just do? What just happened? Or why am I feeling so much weight? No, some people always, I've not done this before, but you could go to the top of a mountain in the desert and just shout out and just scream and let the whole frustration out. You could do that in your your safe space or so, maybe in a bathroom or wherever you have a mirror, and just let it all out, let it all out, let it all out. And after you've let go of everything, you've let it all out, then you speak words of affirmation, positive mirror talk to yourself, like, okay, I've let go of all the frustration and all the burden that seems to be on me, but I am strong, I am
Mhm.
courageous, I am bold, I can do this. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's one thing I say to myself all the time. Like, I just quote it all the time. Like, I just breathe in and out and I say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I just pull through.
Yeah, no doubt. An amazing scripture that carries me every day as well. Um, I, I'll, I want to get one last question in for you, Toby, and that is, if you were to give two or three pieces of advice for leaders, especially leaders that might be struggling a little bit starting off the year, and to get them into this great habit, what would those two or three pieces of advice be for you?
Yes. So one advice would be for you to intentionally take breaks to relax, yes, and also to reflect. Okay, look at the last days or the last phase or maybe the quarter, basically. What worked for you? What did not work for you? What can you do to make what worked for you to continue work for you? What can you do to change what did not work for you to start working for you, basically? And also, another advice I would love to give is that yes. What are the things that you could maybe delegate to other people? Maybe you are just taking on too much than you're supposed to take. Maybe there's someone else there that you could, maybe delegate to that will be so happy to take up some of the responsibilities from you. So what can you do to pull up other people? Because as when we pull up other people in our team, in our workplace, in our organizations, the more we pull up people, the higher we go also. Like, we are pushing all ourselves up. So take that time to reflect, to take a break, to pause, re-strategize if you have to re-strategize, re-energize yourself if you have to re-energize yourself. Look at what you could do to let go of some of this stress. Maybe you have to give someone else the task to do. Maybe what can be automated, automate it. What you can use chat GBT to do, you can use that to do it. Anything, but just The first way to go about it is just to take that break and purposely take that time to relax, cool yourself down, re-energize, re-strategize if you have to.
Love that. And I was taking a few notes as you were saying that, because you talked about probably the thing I see most leaders struggle with, Toby, and that's they don't slow down. They don't take that moment to pause. And you talk about that a lot, to just, slow the world down in this, fast pace that we're living in right now, to just slow it down and take a break. And you really talked about some practical terms there about delegating, lifting someone else up, giving someone else some more responsibility so that you take it off yourself so that you can take that moment. So leaders, I think that is just spectacular advice, and very, very practical, to be able to just, walk away for a few minutes, grab a
Yeah.
cup of coffee. I talk to people that, yeah, I work 12, 13 straight hours, and I'm like, yeah, that's not good. That's not good for your
Mm.
mental health. Yeah, but we were shorthanded. I had to. I get
Mm.
it. We're trying to run a business, but you have to take that time for yourself. And I love that you said that. And I love how you really talk a lot about that in your podcast with your guests. So I want to highly recommend this podcast, folks. I will post a link out there when I post this, and you can listen to Toby. He has some wonderful guests as well on his show that talk about a lot of the same things, and go deeper. And I guarantee you, your soul will be touched as I've listened to him. So I'm definitely going to subscribe and listen all the time now. But
Thank you
Toby,
so
this
much.
has been remarkable, man. I really, really appreciate it. Is there any other way you want to see people get in touch with you, or just through your podcast?
Yeah, on our website we have all the information. I mean,
Okay.
you could get across to me on social media. Also, I'm an open book basically. And I thanks so much for mentioning the podcast, because I mean, before starting the podcast, I was not where I am today. So the podcast for me, or to me, is like a school. Also, I learn from all the guests that come, and everything I talked about today is all due to the guests that have been on the podcast. I learned all of this from them, and I'm using it for my life also. So it's like a school for me. I'm a student of life, learning from you also, Kenny.
No, thank you. I just learned so much from you in this 20, 25 minutes or so. So I know exactly what you're saying. Well, folks, we're going to leave it there. And Toby, again, thank you. This has been the Leading from the Middle podcast with Kenny and with Toby. And Toby, thank you so much. Mirror Talk, make sure you guys, check that out, and you'll have a direct link when you see this. So Toby, thanks again. Let me